Hi everybody and welcome back to Northwestern Models TV, and today I'm going to show you how to put together the 00 gauge coal wagon kit from Ancorton models. So let's get stuck into it. So as always, first job is let's see what's actually in the pack. So we have a fret with all the parts on, and they're all numbered as well. Should be able to see those on there. We have a little cutout for the coal trader's name. That will obviously get stuck on later, so put that to one side to keep it safe. Got the finished, well, the cover article thing, and we've got a sheet of assembly instructions. Now then, I'm going to have a quick read through the instructions so I've got a bit of an idea of what I'm going to be doing, and then we can get really stuck in to this build. It's laser cut, so it should be fairly simple and easy to put together, and in truth should be fairly obvious as well, but I'm just going to take my time and we'll go through it together, and hopefully we'll have a really nice model at the end of it. Alright, so basically I've had a quick scan through the instructions, and they are very simple and easy to follow, which is always a good thing, and it is one of the good things with the Ancorton kits. So the first instruction is to build up the main base of the wagon. So using your craft knife, cut through the tabs which are holding parts 1, 2 and 5, which are the two sides, and the main base itself. Put to one side. Right, so these are the two sides, so these should line up quite nicely with the tabs on the side of the main base structure. Now make sure that you get the axle points at the same end when you come to glue this together, because the last thing we want is an axle on the wrong end and it not lining all up. So to glue this, I'm going to use the rocket card glue from Deluxe Materials. I've used it on many of the how to build it series videos. It's a really good glue for card kits and laser cut wood kits, which this is, because it dries pretty quickly, and is a good strong glue as well. So as always, just use a little bit, you don't need a lot with it, and just assemble it all together with the glue. Now obviously you will have noticed that I did a quick dry run, which to me has always been a smart thing to do whenever building a kit. So that way you know where the parts are going to go and that they're going to fit nicely in the space that you want them to fit in. So you're not going to be struggling to get it all together when everything's all covered in glue, and generally just starting to make a mess of everything. So whilst that is now drying, we can put that to one side and we can move on to the next step, which is to glue parts 3 and 4 to the front axle assembly, it says there, which is part 12. So part 12 is there, there's 3 and 4. So this will be the front axle, which in real life would obviously pivot so that the cart can go around corners and be a lot more manoeuvrable. I don't think it's going to be too manoeuvrable, but I think we should be able to position it at an angle if we wanted to. So it's not necessarily in a straight line. We'll have a look and see. So again, just make sure that we get this the right way around, which is fairly obvious with this. Make sure that they go together like so. So we want to make sure that the planks are on the top side and the axles are on the bottom. So I'll just put glue on there. Same with the other side. Like so. So we've got our main cart and the front axle together. So, next part is to glue the front end, which is part 6, to the front of the wagon base, and the back end, part 7, to the rear over the axle points. So, part 6 and part 7 are together on the fret. So these will form the main surrounding part of our main cart wagon, so that the coal sacks don't fall off the wagon as it's bouncing along the roadways. So let's say to go on the end or in the end. Let's just reread that. Glue the front end part 6 to the front of the wagon base. Right, well, it fits between the sides, so I'm going to put it right at the front between the sides. So that looks like a logical place for it to go with enough strength rather than it hanging over the edge. So let's pop that in there. Just line it all up. And then we'll be able to do the same at the other end. And of course it's going to want to try and fall over. I think we'll be okay there. So do the same with the back. Hopefully that will just go in there and behave itself, which it does seem to have done. So as you can see, we've now got the sort of shape of our coal wagon is coming together there now, which is quite pretty good. I'm quite pleased with that. Right then. So I'm just going to leave that to dry for a minute and reread the next set of instructions, and then we can get some more of it together. Okay, so I've just read and reread the instructions. It was a little bit confusing because it didn't really sort of follow what I would call a sequence going forward. However, I do now understand what on earth it's on about. So, first thing is to glue the axles in place now. The axles are part 11. Now these are going to be fiddly because they are very thin little strips of wood, so do be careful with them because they're going to be a little bit awkward. I seem to remember from some previous kits that axles are generally a little bit of a pain in the backside, but not to worry. So I'm going to do the back ones first. I'm just going to thread it through and then glue it in place where it needs to go, and I can get it through the second hole. There we go. I'm going to glue it on the insides where I can see that it's fairly even, sticking out either side of the wagon for the wheels to go on. So that's that one. And just again, just leave it to one side to dry, and then we do the same with the front axle. And this does actually seem a bit better than one of the other wagon kits I made up previously, where you had to try and stick the axle onto the end. There was nowhere for it to sort of slide through. So whether they've made some alterations to the kits or not, I'm not too sure. But that's the axles in there. Right, now the next bit is where I got confused on the instructions. So it says, glue the spacers, which are part 13, together and set aside to dry. Now I end up thinking, well, what are the spacers for? But I then looked at picture, or figure 17, and it's actually the pivot point for the front axle to go onto the base. And if we look at the front axle, we can actually see a little circle mark on it there, and that is where the spacers will go. But the first job is to stick all 4 of them together. Now they're just located at the bottom of the fret, so just dig them out and literally stick them together. You could probably tidy them up afterwards, but you're not going to need a lot of glue for each one. Like I said, this is literally to get the height difference, and ultimately it will act as the pivot point for the wagon, for you to then be able to position the front axle in any sort of direction that you are wanting to. Let's 2 together. So last lot. There we go. And just put them together. Now those are quite fiddly, I will say that much, because they are so small. I'll just again leave that to one side once it detaches from my finger. There we go. So that will form our, like I said, our pivot point. So it is worthwhile going through and reading the instructions if you feel like you need to, and as I said, I certainly need to then. Right, next bit. Glue the shafts part 14 to the underside of the front axle assembly at an appropriate width and length for the horse required. Now then, I don't actually have a horse, no horse comes with the kit, so I'm going to actually leave that for myself until later, because this particular kit is going to go on my Cake Box Challenge diorama, and I've got a horse on the way for that, so I will then glue those pieces in place at the appropriate time for that. So we then move on and glue the central rail part 8 into place, trimming the posts to fit as required. So part 8 is this big long fret piece here, which essentially is the big board piece for the display of the coal merchant's name on the back of the wagon. So again, cut it out. So that will go on there like so. What we're going to need to do a little bit of trimming on the legs just to get it to fit in a bit better. Actually, it's probably going to be a bit of trial and error, I think. That's looking pretty good. Oops, I'll just sand the edge of that. first, just to give it, take that bit of a burr off, which I won't get with the knife. Right, so that will now go in there. Like I say, this is why you do trial fits, is to get the component parts to fit together quite nicely. I'm pretty happy with how that's going to go now, so let's get the glue on and see if we can actually get it to stay in place. Of course, we can always add a bit of extra glue later. Additionally, also when we get around to actually painting it, the paint itself will also act as a bit of a glue to help keep it all together. It's not the strongest thing in the world, but it does add a little bit to it. So obviously now we get into the delicate stages with it, so we want to obviously take our time with it, but that's how we're starting to look now. Pretty good, I'm quite pleased with it. So I think the less fiddling about the better. Alright, right. Right, figure 5, next part, glued wheels, part 9, and hubs, part 10, to the axles, shown in figure 6. So, we've got 4 wheels, we've got 4 ends caps as well, so just, as with all the other bits, cut them out and stick them in. Now I'm going to start with the front portion first, to just allow that framework just to dry out a little bit more, give it so it's got a little bit of strength to deal with, make our lives a bit easier. So glue on the axle area and then put the wheel onto it, rather than trying to glue the wheel and then get it onto the axle. There we go. Might need a little bit of effort, like they do go on. Let's just do a dry roll with that one. Yeah, that one will go on okay. So again, make sure you do a dry run. So you get your axle, your wheels on. There we go. Obviously you want to try and make sure that your wheels are sitting nice and square and upright, so that they're not going in at a bit of an angle or anything. What we can see, hopefully see there, we've now got the wheels on. So I just need to put the end caps on for those two, and then can do the same with the main wagon as well. So again, using the same technique of gluing the larger thing first to then get the smaller item on, rather than the other way around. And again, we don't need to use a vast amount of glue, we need just enough on there to do the job and hold it on. And the same this side. There we go. Yeah, so now hopefully you'll be able to see there that we've got our wheels and axles on our front portion of the wagon. So I'll leave those to one side to dry, and I'm going to leave it a minute, and I'll do the exact same thing with the main wagon itself. Right, so I've now got the wheels on the main wagon as well. So we're now really actually close to the finish of this actual build. And remember those spaces we had to stick together? Well, now's the time to come to stick them to the front part of the wagon. So, bit of glue on there, and stick them on. And then once that has sort of settled itself, we can then decide whereabouts we're going to position it on to the main wagon. And it does say there, when we put it together, that we can put it at any sort of angle that we wanted to. I'm going to keep this one straight, I think, because it's going to be the simplest for what I want. And then obviously, once I've got the horse that I'm going to use for it, I'll be able to glue the other parts on the underside. So, what we're going to do is just put a bit of glue on the top here of our stack of spaces. Now, we want the front of the wagon to be clear of this gap that is in there. So, positioning it just above it and just lowering down like so. I'm now just going to leave it well alone like that, so it is now actually all together as one unit. Once the glue has gone off a bit more, I'll turn it over and I'll actually add some more glue to the underside just to give it a bit more strength, because obviously it's quite a fragile little kit really, but it's all essentially it's all together now, and then just needs, like I say, the straps for the horse, a coat of paint, and the coal merchant's name putting on the boards. So there we are, that is our coal merchant's little coal wagon in 00 gauge, all built up. And like I say, it just needs the straps on for the horse and the coat of paint and the coal merchant's name putting on it. So as you can see, it is a pretty simple kit to build. It's nice and easy, and it's taken me about an hour maybe, at most maybe. So yeah, it's a nice kit and ideal for any sort of coal yard scene. So anyway, I hope that you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, don't forget to give us a good old thumbs up. Also do make sure that you hit that subscribe button as well, and until next time, happy modelling!